seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish. I'm joined with Roman, and we have some news for y'all. The Texans waived the injured Dontrell Hilliard, and Dontrell Hilliard, he didn't have too much of a role with us. He was our kick returner. He had 5 returns for 104 combined yards, and so this is just another roster move that's just trimming down the roster even more, and this can mean. One main thing is that Scotty Phillips is moving up, but what are your initial thoughts on this move?
In February, I believe the Houston Texans gave him a 1-year, $2 million contract, something like that. So for them to cut him right now, to me, it means that it's probably either going to be down to either Buddy Howell or Scotty Phillips for either the running back 4 role or the running back on the practice squad role. I like the decision. Dontrell Hilliard, he didn't really have, I don't think he had any carries last season. It was mainly just kick returns. So, he really didn't contribute too much to the team. And I believe Scotty Phillips would contribute more than what Dontrell Hilliard contribute.
Yeah, I believe there's only 2 more guys that we need to waive to get to that 85-man deadline by tomorrow at 3 p.m. So I think it could either be one of the back of the line we signed, another running back like you suggested, but we have a lot of depth on the roster, so there's places that you can trim down from. But yeah, so that was one of the big things that happened. And then another thing about Anthony Miller's status is that there was no structural damage found on the MRI on his dislocated right shoulder. So that's really good news, and he can return as soon as the first or second game of the season. So yeah, that's really good news. He was performing really well at camp, and he wanted to show out, and he wanted to prove people what he can bring to the table, this being his contract year. So that's really good news, and Anthony Miller's been developing a good connection with Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor and everyone. So that's really good news. And then just some training camp updates. It was quite an eventful camp. Let's go start with the first thing that happened. So wide receiver Chris Conley had the play of the practice so far with a deep fade on the right side from Tyrod Taylor, and he just went up and got it over Tavier Thomas. We had perfect coverage, and that ended up in a 30-plus yard reception.
It's overall just showing that Chris Conley has a very, very, very good connection with Tyrod Taylor. And it showed it in the preseason game against the Packers. Tyrod Taylor, it seems like he has a bunch of trust in him. And that Chris Conley also has a bunch of trust in Tyrod Taylor. And going into the season, it's going to be a very, very important connection. That's one connection to look out for.
Yeah, and Chris Conley is really showing that contested catch ability, something we really missed since the departure of DeAndre Hopkins. But it looks like Chris Conley is really bringing that back to Houston. And the next thing that happened was Shaheem Carter had a one-handed interception from Davis Mills, and it was a really great play. And Mills was looking sharp up to that point per Lungy Locker, and he has some jump in his steps. So it kind of really goes back to the inconsistencies. Like, he shows a lot of good and a lot of bad. And for a rookie, that's kind of expected. But what are your takeaways from this?
I really like Shaheem Carter. I believe he's the cornerback or safety from Alabama that we picked up. I think it was an undrafted free agent or something like that. And I've seen a little bit of him. He hasn't really made any noise in camp, but I see it more so as a bigger play from Shaheem Carter than what it is for a mistake from Davis Mills. Davis Mills, as a third-round rookie, you're going to expect mistakes like that. And Shaheem Carter, for him to be an undrafted free agent and making plays like that, for it to be a one-handed interception, that says a lot. And I hope he can show up for the rest of camp into the next preseason games.
Yeah, and Shaheem Carter also made a nice play in the preseason game. He stopped the Packers on a third and short situation. He wrapped up the opposing running back, I believe. So yeah, Shaheem Carter is starting to make some noise in camp and preseason. The next thing, another Nico Collins is showing out once again. He had a 40-yard reception along the sideline, perfect adjustment to a ball perfectly underthrown, and the sidelines goes nuts. And this really shows that Nico Collins is going to be a stud in the future.
Yeah, obviously he's not no Andre Johnson, but I've seen a lot of Houston media and a lot of a lot of other channels that cover the Houston Texans compare him to him in a way. The way he plays receiver, the way he uses his body, similar speed, and apparently Nico Collins, one of his most underrated traits is his route running. So sure, he has a massive size, he has some pretty good speed. I believe he's like 6'4", but then to go along with his route running, that says a lot. From to just, I believe it was a fade route, a 40-yard reception fade. So for him to go up in the air and get it when it was an underthrown ball, he had to readjust himself. I believe it was in midair. I'm not sure, but if it was, for him to readjust himself in midair, that's incredible for a rookie.
Yeah, and I believe Nico Collins experienced a lot of those underthrown balls in Michigan, where the quarterback play wasn't that great, but Nico Collins had to do what he was given, and he made those kinds of plays where he adjusted to the ball, and so you kind of see it here now in camp, and how well he's doing, and it's really nice to see the whole his all the teammates really rallying around him. And then the next thing that happened on a 3rd and 7 play, quarterback Davis Mills with a perfect toss to Kiki QT for 35 yards, perfect pitch and catch, and Kiki goes right down the seam from the slot. So it kind of seems that Davis Mills and Kiki QT are developing some kind of connection stemming from their preseason game.
Yeah, and this is huge for Kiki QT. With Anthony Miller out for the foreseeing future, probably like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. Kiki QT really has to take advantage of this. Throughout camp before Anthony Miller's injury, it seemed like Anthony Miller was kind of overtaking Kiki QT as that slot receiver number 1, and Kiki QT has a chance right now to go in there and show what he has, and that's what he's done today in training camp and in the Packers preseason game. And for Davis Mills to have a comfortable slot receiver target, that's going to be huge for him. If he is to find some playing time in the regular season, Kiki QT has shown, I guess, that he could be a reliable target and that he's always going to be available for Davis Mills to either check it down to him or he's always going to be open in that flat.
Yeah, and in the preseason game, he also hit Kiki QT to convert that 3rd down. So looks like he's going to be looking at Kiki to kind of convert those tough conversions. But that's an interesting development to see. And another thing is, should be Mills' interception goes off Tre Smith's hands, who, as you all know, who made an interception in the Green Bay Packers game, and into the hands of wide receiver Chris Moore for a 1st down. And Texans' Lonnie Johnson intercepts the next Mills pass on the sidelines and punts the ball in celebration. Lonnie has had a good camp. And so yeah, it looks like kind of goes back to the fact that Mills makes some risky plays, and his interception in the preseason game was a little risky, considering there's 2 Packers players there. But I believe one Packer player was kind of running the wrong route or something like that. It was kind of like a fluky play. So, but yeah, that kind of goes back to that. And Lonnie having a good camp, that's really nice to see. Him kind of it being his 2nd year transition to safety.
Yeah, apparently Tre Smith's been having a very outstanding camp. And I mean, it's kind of unexpected. We brought him in, I believe it was a free agent. We didn't really expect too much from him, but for him to be making some plays, I know he got kind of burned in the Packers game, but he made up for it with that interception. And through camp, I believe he's making an interception or multiple interceptions during camp. And for him to add up another one today, it's showing that he can really make a difference on this roster. And that may be another reason why they cut Keon Crossan, because they have confidence in Tre Smith and maybe a couple other corners. But for Lonnie Johnson, yeah, he's been having a very good camp. I believe he had an interception last week as well, and during the training camp. And for him to make an interception today, that's very good news for him to be for him to have an interception.
Yeah, I think also Tre Smith also mentioned that him, Justin Reed, and Lonnie Johnson have been building a lot of chemistry over the off season, and so they're starting to getting to know each other very well. So you can see that how the teammates have quickly bonded together and things like that. And finally, to end the practice, quarterback Davis Mills throws a touchdown to Rex Burkhead in the red zone, and so Rex Burkhead, this was like the first big news that I've heard from Rex Burkhead, like as far as training camp goes. I think this might have been his first first practice like that he's healthy. So maybe like with this really stacked running back room, like we mentioned earlier, we might anticipate another person from the running back room waived or moved to the practice squad. We don't know, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, we have a bunch of running backs right now. We have a ton of running back depth. We have David Johnson. We have Mark Ingram. We have Philip Lindsay. We have Buddy Howell and Scotty Phillips, who both impressed in this Packers preseason game. And then we have Rex Burkhead making plays in training camp. I mean, in my opinion, it's going to be very, very difficult for the Houston Texans to trim down. I believe they're going to carry 4 running backs on this roster, as most teams do. I could potentially see them carrying 5, with 2 of them mainly being special teams aces. But yeah, it's gonna be a very, very tough decision. You have a veteran leader in Rex Burkhead who can be that culture guy for the Houston Texans in the running back room, but then you also have Mark Ingram who's kind of fills in that role. So I mean, to me, the odd man out, I think it's gonna end up being Rex Burkhead. Whether it be on the practice squad, I know it's kind of on the older side, but in my opinion, I see him being the odd man out. I don't see how you could cut Scotty Phillips. I mean, he's had a very good camp, and then he showed a lot of promise in that preseason game.
Yeah, and far as other running backs go, David Johnson kind of spoke on what his role is with the Texans, and he said right now I'm not sure. He said in the moment it's tough, so I don't know. So maybe David Johnson's going to be unhappy later down in the future, that he isn't getting enough snaps. Like he's getting a very reduced role because obviously you have Lindsey, you have Mark Ingram, and so I don't know if David Johnson how he'll take that reduced role. I think he'll be kind of more of a glorified receiver option more than a running back. I feel Philip Lindsay is going to get that major workload, but that's one thing to keep note. So David Johnson has a reduced workload. He was mentioning it earlier, and so yeah, we'll see about that. But do you have any other news from training camp to go over?
Not really nothing else, but I mean, I guess one other thing. Deshaun Watson didn't practice, but apparently to Mark Berman, he's still in the meetings and he's still in the trainer. So I mean, nothing major, just the same typical Watson news. But yeah.
Yeah, it's the same updates every camp. I don't know why they keep asking. I mean, at this point, it's just going to be the same thing until like the trade actually happens, if that ever happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know your thoughts on training camp and these new updates. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank you all for watching. Peace.